Do social services take children into care for no reason? This is one of my most asked questions. It's also the question I hate answering the most, but I'm going to make a video. I would say I'm qualified enough to talk about this. I was in foster care. I had a child while I was still in foster care. My child was put on a child in need plan when she was 3, and I've worked in a social services department. So I can see it from all sides. I can see it from a personal point of view and a professional point of view. I'm gonna try and talk about this subject in the most factual and unbiased way as possible. This is a really sensitive subject and I can't please everybody, but I'm gonna try. Because I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. From what I've seen, people are very black and white with this subject. Either, yes, social services are evil and corrupt and take children for no reason, or the other side is, no, they don't. There's always a reason. Only bad parents say social services take children for no reason. So I'm going to start with a girl who I will call Amy. Amy was in foster care. I know her personally, okay? This isn't just something I've heard of. A lot of this is what I saw with my own eyes. I don't know her full childhood, but I know that she was in care for what I would say more traumatic reasons than what I was. She moved around a lot more than I did. She had a baby while she was still in care. I think she was 16 or 17. Teenage girls having children in foster care is so common. Before anyone's like, well, you shouldn't have a baby as a teenager. I'll make a whole video about teenage pregnancy in foster care. So she had a baby, she left foster care, I think when her daughter was 1.5. And she left foster care because she was 18. She couldn't be in foster care anymore. She got kicked out of care, basically, which is what happens when you turn 18. And she seemed to be doing well with her child. She was in college, so she could get some good qualifications so that she could get a job. Then she met a man. It is very common for females in foster care, like I said, to have children as teenagers. It's also common for them to end up with abusive partners. And she ended up in a DV relationship. Amy then drops out of college. Fast forward a year, so her child is now nearly 3. Because Amy is not in college anymore, she is not getting up until around lunchtime. She's staying awake all night. You know, it's like, how do I describe it? You know those relationships that is like, it's so toxic and horrible, but then you make up and it feels beautiful, and then you fall out and it's horrible, and then you make up and it's beautiful. It was like that. That's why she stayed with him. I wouldn't say it was fear of leaving. So that means Amy's child is now not getting up until lunchtime either. The child is no longer in nursery. Social services get concerned because they are aware that this child is potentially being exposed to DV. Even if she doesn't see anything, she might be hearing it. So social services take Amy's child, who's now 3, they take her into foster care. Social workers then tell Amy, we're giving you 6 months. We want you to leave the man. We want you to try and get a job or get back into education. And we want you to really show us that you care for your child and that you want her back in your care. Long story short, Amy didn't do any of it. She used to visit her daughter at a contact centre. She used to bring the man along with her. The man social services have said, you need to leave. I think when it comes to DV relationships, it's probably the most heartbreaking reason a child can be removed. Because you as a woman are being punished because you're not leaving. And some people don't leave because they're scared. I was in a DV relationship. This was when my daughter was 4 years old. I was terrified of leaving, but I eventually left. Social services were not involved with me at the time, but after I left this man, he had sent me a message saying if I didn't get back together with him, because the police were involved as well, if I didn't get back together with him, he was going to ring social services and tell them that I hurt my child. So I rang social services myself and I said, I've got this message. Here's a copy of it. I can email it to you. But expect a phone call soon. Expect this man to report me to you guys soon. And guess what he did? And he got in trouble for it further down the line. It all went to court, blah, blah, blah. But social services, he had said that I hurt her and that she's malnourished. So social services said, we have to legally come out and visit you. We appreciate that you've already warned us about this, but legally we have to. And I was like, that's fine. I was glad they were taking it seriously because there are children out there that need social services to check up on them. So they came, they saw my daughter was fine, and they left. They were a little bit annoyed at me because they said, you were in a DV relationship and didn't tell us. And I was like, I didn't think I could. How could I tell you? But what they appreciated was they appreciated that I left this man. They appreciated that I'd contacted the police. They appreciated that I was keeping them in the loop. They appreciated I had moved out of my house. Me and my daughter, once I left this relationship, I temporarily moved back in with my mum. The social services, they disappeared. And social services offered to help me move house because I needed a new house. I knew I need to move. I cannot go back to where I live. I was looking for a new home. Social services, because it was DV, actually offered to help me move. The only problem was they can only do it if it's out of borough, because they think, you know, you're safer as a woman out of the borough. I didn't particularly want to do that at the time. But social services then left. I don't know if social services made the same offer to Amy. I don't know if they said to Amy, we will help you get away from this guy, we will move you, and if she refused it. Personally, I don't think Amy ever wanted to leave this guy. I think she had a child because she just wanted someone to love. Her family messed up. Her family did not... I understand why she did not believe her family loved her. She just wanted someone to love who she could love back. The problem is, what people find out too late is babies can't really love you back. Not like that. They're fully dependent on you, but your child doesn't owe you unconditional love. Whereas this man, he could, you know, in Amy's mind, this man was offering her that and she didn't leave. Social services then said, we will give you another 6 months. But then that's it. Then your child, we are putting her up for adoption. Nothing changed. And the child got put up for adoption. And with that situation, because there's many, I'm going to go through, like, this is going to have to be several parts. I'm almost doing like case by case on the people I've known that have had their children taken away or nearly taken away. For this particular case, I hope social services offered her all the support they could for her to leave, because it is not easy for women to leave violent relationships. Because when you're in a DV relationship, when your child gets taken away, and I'm talking about the situation where you're actually too scared to leave. The majority of women who are unalived by men, it's after they leave the man. It's not while they're with the man, it's after. I think it's something like 89%. Don't quote me because I might be wrong. But I think it is something like 89% of women that are unalived by men, they are unalived once they leave. And it's so sad because the child gets removed and it's almost like punishing the mum further. She is in this horrible relationship and now you're ripping away the one thing that means everything to her. But at the same time, I get why children need to be taken away in that situation. Children should not be living in a home where they are potentially exposed to violence. So I hope they offered her the support to leave. I can't say they did, I can't say they didn't. But I have the feeling that if they did offer the support, she wouldn't have taken it. Now, other women would. So that's my opinion on that. When a child is taken into care, when a child is put up for adoption, it's not a quick process. They usually are in foster care first, and then the adoption process starts. When it's a case of you have been like extremely abusive toward your child, I don't think you ever get a chance to get them back. And I think that's right. If you repeatedly put your hands on your child, you shouldn't ever be allowed near that child again. Anyway, her child did get adopted. What's interesting is I know that she went on to have a child with that man. And as far as I'm aware, she still has custody of that child. I don't know if she's still with the guy. We're going back years. But I find it interesting they took her daughter for being in this DV relationship and her not leaving. But then when she had a child with him, I have no doubt social services wouldn't have been involved. They would have been involved. But it's interesting that they let her keep the child, because normally they try and do future risk of harm. A lot of children might be taken or put on court orders because of future risk of harm. And I would say that's a situation where that's actually legit. Anyway, that's just one case. My next video will be a whole different case and we're going to go and go and go. I'll talk about my own situation. I mentioned my child was on a child in need plan. I have before, so I'll save it for last so that I'm not repeating myself too much. But yeah, let me know if you want part 2.